Assalamu alaikum class. So today our topic is about the previous one is the last part of the previous topic, that is an assessment of Pakistan urban policies 1947 to 1977. That is here is the fourth part of this topic, and it is the in this topic we will see the third phase of these Pakistan urban policies. In this we will see the policy glow and the property boom and the local initiatives, and after that local market and housing supply, and then after that land market and housing supply. This all we will discuss in this topic, the internationalization of the policy process and surface of foreign advices and aid, and in last we will see the urban environment of Pakistan. So let us start with the phase 3. So let us start with the phase 3, that is policy glow and the property boom 1980 to 1995. Although General Ziaul had been ruling since July 1977 after outstanding Bhutto's government, his conservative ideology took about 3 years to effect policy. Yet urban policies remains almost unaltered. The fifth five-year plan 1978 to 1983 continued to concentrate on critical programs in public sector, namely site development for housing, slum improvement, mobilizing of private sector for investment in housing, expansion of safe water supplies. The explicit reference to mobilizing private sector for investment in housing was the only hint of ideological shift in objective, though even it was although altogether a new policy. The shift to greater reliance on the private sector for developing and managing urban facilities comes in Pakistan gradually during the 1980s to 1990s. So the both by national ideological changes and both pressure of World Bank and IMF. Yet remarkably, both the objectives and the strategy, namely the mix of programs, continued uninterrupted. The achievement and outcomes of 1980s and the earlier 1990s programs are essentially similar to those of the previous phases, except in scale and focus. The seventh plan 1988 to 1993 allocated rupees 20 billion for the physical planning and housing. It aimed at meeting the incremental demand of serviced plots for low and lower income households through the public sector on self-financing base. So this introduced the policies of cost recovery in the public sector. Similarly, it engages local municipalization and project area committees to undertake improvement and servicing of Kachi Abadis with the only partial funding and subsidies from the federal government. Again, a subtle shift towards reducing subsidies and passing on some cost to beneficiaries is evident. Cost recovery, smaller subsidies and local responsibilities gradually emerged as the policies of 1990s. So in phase 3 there are more detail about local initiatives, land market and housing supply, and others. So let us start with the first, that is local initiatives. Let us look on that topic. Paralleling the policy emphasized on devaluation of responsibilities for infrastructure to the local government, community group emerged to promote local development through self-help. The organic pilot project OPP started in a slum of Karachi 1980s in the most famous and successful of local self-help effort. It has 4 programs: low cost sanitation, housing, health and family planning, and credit for the small enterprises. Many subsequently community organizations have emerged in the poor neighborhood, particularly to conveniently deal with the public agencies. These community-based organizations, means CBOs, are now topped by the newly formed NGOs, many of which have emerged with the incentives of foreign grants and international funding. So the matching grant programs for the union council and the district town council distribute grants for local projects, though merged in considerable inefficiencies and corruptions. These programs has contributed to the paving of streets, water supply schemes, drains and schools, etc. and etc. in villages as well as the city wards. This program continues until the present 1996 and is deeply enriched in the political system, delivering some community improvement and fulfilling the demand of patronage. So the recently and the social action program in 1991 for provision of health, education and welfare services at the local level, and a variety of special development programs such as the one for Balochistan development have funneled public funds and the services to towns and rural settlements. So collectively, local programs have stimulated considerable activities in infrastructure development across the country. There are no systematic evaluation of these programs to help draw empirical conclusion about their impacts, though newspapers are regularly full of accounts of both their achievement and the corruption surrounding them. So let us start with the next thing, that is the land market and the housing supply. First stood at about 1.2 million units in 1978. The fifth five-year plan 1978 to 1983 aimed at meeting only 60% of additional demand emerging in the first year period without promising to clear any of the backlog. The plan's achievement fell below even this modest target. Only 2,85,000 plots were developed against the target of 4,25,000 improvement, whereas only 0.5 million persons in Kachi Abadi slums were covered under the improvement program against the target of 1.33 million. So also the new housing unit in the private sector were 2,25,000 against the target of 3,50,000. All in all, the sixth plan began with a cumulative storage of 1.4 million housing in 1983. By 1995, the housing deficit, combined urban and the rural, had reached 6.2 million, and in addition 1,50,000 per unit here were required to meet the needs of new household. The continual shortfall in the housing supply in indication of population growth outstripping expanding private and public capacity for home building. Yet land development and house building have become a booming industry. Cooperative housing in societies have become major land developers in the lucrative urban market. Universities, the army, the railways, the water and power authority, other public corporation and private groups have ventured into the land development, forming cooperative society and foundation. The urban land markets had become both very active and highly speculative by the 1990s. Various circuits of the land markets, upper, lower, and illicit are booming stimulously. Yet the market price are unaffordable even for the professional classes. For example, a one knal of the land in Johor town, which is about 4 to 6 yearly salaries of a university vice chancellor or federal secretary. Land prices in the other cities are comparable in yet to be developed sector of Islamabad. Price range from 0.8 to 2.0 million per canal. They increased at rate of 30 to 70% per year in 1980s. The privilege of ultimate price is enjoyed by the politically and administratively well connected of both the lower and upper class in the form of plot quotes in public land and housing schemes. A sizable group obtained this windfall again by the getting houses plot at 1/6 and the 1/8 of the market price. This mechanism operates both in the upper and the lower circuit of the land market. A study in Punjab estimates that the provincial departments and the local development authorities developed 3,80,952 plots over a 40 years per year, realizing a revenue of 6.9 billion rupees from official prices, which in the market were worth rupees 63.9 billion. Thereby, subsidies allotted to the ton of 9 to 10th of the price. So all in land, the land market is highly fragmented, specular, and embedded in the network of privilege, connection, and mobilization. So this I have documentation of these upper and the lower income areas. So all in all is that this situation is a result of two factors actually. These are incomplete development and the unfulfillment promises of services, and plot bought by the influential for speculation. Both factors point to the poor public management of the land development processes. Here is the internationalization of the policy process and the surfeit of foreign advices and aids. The volume of international aids and advice available for urban development and human habitat increased manifold in 1980s. The World Bank and its regional affiliated Asian Development Bank increased their lending for urban projects. Bilateral aids like agencies like international NGOs also invested in quarter upgrading and slumming improvement projects. In all, and the unprecedented cycle of conferences, advisory missions, policies, advices, and aid swept through TW's urban sectors. In Pakistan, urban policies also came under international influences both conceptually and materially. In the decade of 1980s alone, eight national policy reports were prepared with the World Bank and its affiliated funds. Almost all of these have remained paper exercises, except of occasionally capital works projects being picked out of their recommendation. The recommended legislative, organizational, and physical measures fell by the wayside. These reports widened the gulf between the policy conceived in Islamabad and programs and projects followed in Lahore, Quetta, and Hayat. So here is the urban environment. What is the urban environment in these eras? The environmental issue rose on the national and the international agendas in 1980s. Urban growth and population pressure have precipitated a problem of water and the air pollution, waste disposal, and the preservation of natural resources include good quality agriculture land, etc. So these problems have reached their sport level to make the present form of urban development unsustainable, while the proportion of population getting access to the piped water supply in increasing the quality of water in restoring to the point that in Islamabad, Lahore and Karachi, public health authorities advises boiling and drinking water. The environmental agenda has been added to the urban policies concerned. The environmental policies have evolved more or less in the same pattern as the urban programs. The Federal Environmental Protection Council has been established and professional agencies have been instituted. The National Conservation Strategy, fashioned after the Global Conservation Strategy, has been approved by the Cabinet in 1992. Program following from it shows a basis toward public works and the capital investment in practice. Urban water and sewerage projects are now being presented at the environmental windows of international donors as are capital work for the cleanup of industrial waste. So here are the summing up of the third phase outcome in the evolution of urban policies. The first is the urban system has become bigger and more complex, triggering their hold for new collective goods, institution and the legislation to deal with the problem of water quality, air pollution, noise, affordability of the market housing, land specialization, local finance, urban sprawl and traffic management, along with the continuing housing deficit, infrastructure shortfalls, persistent poverty and inequality. The PPNH, as the organization home of urban policies, continues to concentrate on the public works, plots and construction as the instrument of urban development. The organizational, legislative and financial measures, that is the soft options required to deal with the new challenges of urban crisis, are beyond the authority as well as capacity of the PPNH. This third phase has witnessed a state privatization of the housing and land market as well as the provision of community facility and services. Almost 40 years of the urban policies and programs combined with the private initiatives have cumulatively improved housing condition in the some respect. For example, in 1975, about 30% of the urban populations had access to the piped water supply. By 1990s, about 80% had this facility. This housing condition of Punjab particularly registered substantially improvement between 1981 and 1989. Despite the improvement in the housing condition, particularly in the urbanized Punjab, the urban crises are shifting towards more complex issues of the quality and the provision of the new collective goods, many of which are legislative, organizational and social culture in nature.